Want to have a more efficient dryer? Cut your drying time down by 1/3 by doing these few things internally for your dryer. Any SEARS or Maytag type dryer that you may find can be dismantled rather easy in order to gain efficiency value in your drying of your clothing. The first thing you want to do is make sure you unplug your device. Always unplug before you do anything else, and check to see that you can actually move your dryer and that the stack of the dryer is removable, which this one is. Almost all of them are. And in this case, what you'd have to do is just simply move the dryer out. And in my case, for my dryer, just pop the vent off of the back. This vent just comes right off the back of the machine. Just hangs there. Some have the flexible type vents where it looks like an accordion. Typically they're on with a clamp. Mine isn't. Again, this video is not meant for professional reasons. I'm an amateur. I'm just showing you this so you can use this in your life. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. First thing you're going to do, there's a dryer. This dryer has this lint trap up top. You simply remove the lint trap, set it aside. There's 2 screws that hold it into place. Do not drop these screws in the chute where the lint trap came from, especially afterward when it's all reassembled, because it's going to be a giant pain to have to fetch these 2 screws. So just make sure you hold on to them. So in the next step, you're going to use either a small putty knife. There's 2 black clips which are on both sides of the dryer. This dryer's been opened many times, so there's some markings on here, but your dryer might not be. So you could either use a putty knife and pop the clip open on both sides, or you could use a flathead screwdriver and do the same thing. Simply pry up. So when you're done, the top of your dryer just opens like this. These 2 black clips are what I'm talking about. Alright, so the next step, disassembling the dryer, is just a quick couple screws that go to the back. I have a simple 5-in-1 tool here from Milwaukee, but you could use any 5-in-1 tool from any company, and kind of follow the path of where the screws are. I slightly loosen that one for now. There's one underneath here, underneath this wiring clamp, that I slightly unloosen but not take out completely. Go to the next set and just follow it around in a U shape until you get back to here again. Okay, for the next step, once you get all the rest of the screws taken out of the back cover plate, this final screw here I didn't do, but this is kind of tricky. You'll get it after you do a few of these, or do it for your own dryer a few times. This cover plate kind of needs to be taken out. Back here is all your high voltage. It goes to your lead that goes into your 220, and then you just simply take this cover plate off and let that hang. Here you want to just vacuum out quickly. In this case, this has already been cleaned, but in most cases, if you're taking this apart for the first time, it's going to be pretty well dirty. A lot of lint. Make sure you get the louvers cleaned pretty well, and then we'll go on to the next stage for the internals of the dryer. The next step is to take off the set screws that are inside of this actual catch for their lint trap. This comes directly off the blower motor. Again, in this case here, you definitely want to try to hold on to each screw without dropping it. Get to the final screw. This is simply just going to kind of drop. So support it from the bottom briefly for a moment, and then just pull out, and then the whole unit comes out. This has been cleaned recently, but currently it has a little bit of dirt and some staining inside, but normally this is really packed with lint and debris. Sometimes I find bobby pins, pens, coins, or whatnot. And aside the lint trap holder, we're just simply going to vacuum out the inside of this blower wheel. You see the lint debris? Typically this is pretty bad off. Get in both sides here. Be very careful with the electronics in here. Do not disturb any of this. They're fragile. You'll also clean this in here, this opening, with a vacuum cleaner. This has been cleaned with your shop vac. You want to take the top of this again, And reposition the dryer so you can rest the back onto something or suspend it again from the ceiling. And then 5-in-1. And simply remove these 2 screws from the inside that are held together with these 2 clips. Now I did this earlier, but this will be assembled. This is your door switch, which controls the light function of your internal drum. This just gives the ability for the light to turn on, and it's a door sensor to tell the machine that the door is either open or closed. In this case, there's 2 clips on here. You just want to simply remove that at this point. After that it's done, you remove these 2 clips, or excuse me, these 2 screws from these 2 clips. You want to take your hand, your left hand, and support the front of this door, which will want to naturally topple out. You take your right hand and you pull up the front door, set it aside, and now you're holding the drum from both top and bottom. So the next step is going to be, you have this pulley which is attached to the motor itself with this belt. So you want to take your thumb and kind of push. You see what I exercise? The pulley, there's some tension into it which loosens the belt. Well, in this case, you want to just pull up and release the belt off the motor itself from the pulley. So basically this is just a one-way sprung piece of metal inside that rests inside of here. Just set that aside for right now. Take the drum and lift it out completely from the opening. What I like to do is to inspect the belt, flip it around where the grooves are to check to make sure there's no massive breaks or parts of the teeth missing. In this case, this belt is old, but it'll do for now. Now that we have the drum set aside, you can see all the internals of the dryer. The motor, these are the pulley wheels. They should spin freely and completely independent from everything else. Step is to vacuum out the internals here. Be very careful around the motor. You don't want to damage any of the brushes or any of the windings that are inside of the motor. And very carefully just vacuum around the inside of your dryer. Is to sort of service these pulley spindles that are on here. I'm sure that I'm not using the right term for it. But I like to wipe them off. These are due to be replaced at some point, but for right now, I'm just going to service them. Make sure they're clean from lint and debris, and I'm going to use a product called Zoom Spout. A lot of people who work on sewing machines use this. I use this on the races for the insides of the bearings. I'll remove the cap and just put 1 single drop on both, which should be good enough for now. And then I kind of exercise it in both directions so it spins freely. After you have all this cleaned out and you have the 2 pulleys greased, you want to make sure your belt is the groove side down again, because that's very important for the next step. You simply slide this up into place. If you have a second set of hands, it goes a lot easier. There's a cloth piece of material up here with a stitch. There's 3 stitches that go around it. This is also due for a new drum. But in this case, because the machine is so old, I'm just buying time with it. And what you want to do is make sure that the lip of that cloth, that material, is sitting flush inside, so it's not tucked underneath when you reinstall it, because that'll make a fail point and it won't dry correctly. The next step is to actually support the drum once you have it all back in place and the belt is aligned. You want to take the pulley. You want to take the pulley and then refeed it again, so it's in this configuration. The pulley goes through here, the belt goes through the pulley like so. You stretch the pulley to go out towards the motor and then relax it again. Hey, next step is to reinsert the front door. I would definitely try to dust off the interior of the front door, which you can't get to once the door is open from the outside. So make sure you kind of clean this up as well before you do that. These 2 locking points for these 2 pins, it's pretty important you align them up correctly in order to get it back together. And once you have the 2 pins set into place and the doors secure at the bottom, you want to take your fingers and remove them out of the way. Hold the door open with your left hand, open the front, and with your right hand, Re-support the front door again. And kind of wiggle the drum back and forth so it's back on track. Like so. And take them from the 2 clips earlier and reposition them back in again. Don't drop them. It's very important this time that they don't get dropped. Get the 2 screws put back into the 2 clips in the front door again. Go ahead and reassemble the clip that just rests there for the door sensor itself. And I usually give it a few spins from the inside just to make sure that the belt is back on properly and that this, I call it a cat whisker, this sweeper is staying where it should be. Next step is to take the lint trap holder and reposition it again back inside. It takes in order to reassemble that, but it just has to wiggle back into position again. Before I go any further, I typically like to align this up first. Some guys do it last, I go first with it. These 2 screws get set back into, or even just temporarily set back into place. With these 2 screws put back in, we're all done with the top of the dryer. Just simply to close this again, you just simply take your 2 hands and tap it down. Reassemble the back with the 4 screws that were taken out earlier. Be careful not to drop them. Mine has it right here, right here, right here, or right here. Okay, after that's reassembled, everything is nice and tight. We're going to get the back door and put that back in. So, putting the cover back on again in the back. Just start that first screw. What I like to do is start from the bottom and work my way up. All line, we're going to go in reverse order and put our screws back in again. And I like to start with the first screw to reassemble it. Just work your way around in the order you started to remove everything with. You're almost done. Just have to slide the whole unit back into place again where the stack is into the wall. You have your washer out of the way. I didn't move mine earlier, but just for demonstration purposes, you want to take your dryer vent and then reassemble it back onto the back of your dryer. In most cases, unlike mine, most people have clamps that are on here. Go ahead and reassemble the clamp once your dryer vent is installed again. Next step is to carefully plug in your high voltage plug back into the receptacle again from the appliance. Now vacuum out the inside of your lint trap, or in some cases, because of the fabric softeners that we all use, after you vacuum it, you could just simply use a scrub brush with some soap and clean it and then dry it well. And now that we've vacuumed out the lint trap itself, simply reinsert it like you would. Turn it on, check for function. After you throw an article of clothing inside, I would give it 30 seconds or so, or maybe 45 seconds. You should start to feel the stack get warm again. And there you have it, folks. Your dryer should be much more efficient, and it'll cut your drying time more than likely down from wherever it was at one point to at least a third better than it was. Just by doing simple hacks like this, you can save money on your appliances.